Hello everyone. I am so happy to be joining you today for one of my most favorite topics, courageous communication. And I am so excited to peel back the curtain and teach you all of the secrets to be able to really effectively communicate your wants, your needs, your desires, to be able to set boundaries from a place of power and without feeling guilt or shame for expressing your needs, and also how to navigate conflicts effectively so that when you're in a meaningful relationship, you know how to navigate the bumps that inevitably may show up down the road. So, if you don't know me, my name is Zach Bowles. I'm the owner and founder and creator of Gay Man Thriving. Along with my husband Andrew, we created this organization over 5 years ago to help gay men like you live their most purposeful, passionate, and pleasurable lives imaginable and have the high quality relationships that we all deserve and that we all desire as human beings and gay men. And without further ado, I am so excited to jump in and get started. Can't wait to teach you guys some incredible tools and yeah, just really dive in. First off, I just want to say hello to all of you. Say hi down in the comments below. I love interacting with you men while I do these live trainings. So please say hi, tell me where you're joining me from. And I am just so thrilled to dive in and get started. So, hello, Johnny. Hello, Christian. Hey, Bobby. Good to see you. Joining me on your vacation. I love it. Ernest, Nick, Michael. Hey, Mr. Jerry. Hope you're feeling better, brother. Much love to you. Alpha, Rob. Good to see you guys. Definitely be. Hey, Ian. Joining me from Scotland. Michael from Orlando. Hey, Dave. Hey, Ross. All right, looks like we've got a great crew today. Well, guys, I want you to be asking questions and just anything comes up. Like, I want to interact with you guys while I do this training. It brings me great joy to share one of the topics that I am so passionate about, which has helped me have such an incredible relationship with my husband and the people in my life because communication is essential to connection. And so many of us can have a lot of barriers and blocks that we might not even be aware of. And in this training, I want to help you understand what can be getting in the way of having more courageous communication so that you can build more meaningful connections, and also some practical tips and tools and strategies so that you can step out of fear, step out of that past programming that may keep you feeling like you don't want to say the wrong thing, so that you can have a next level of quality connection in your life. So I see more of you are joining me. So happy to see you here today. And as I mentioned, today we're focusing on courageous communication, how to confidently and authentically express your feelings, needs, and wants, set healthy boundaries, and navigate conflict fearlessly. We're going to talk about powerful strategies to confidently express yourself. I'm going to teach you proven techniques for setting healthy boundaries and navigating those conflicts, and some insider secrets to build balanced reciprocal relationships that are filled with passion and pleasure. So, this training is for you if you ever feel like you just don't know what to say. Let's say you're single and you're wanting to meet more people, but you get in your head and you overthink and you doubt yourself, which makes you do what? Overthink and oftentimes not really say anything or try to say the thing that you think someone wants to hear, which is really blocking you from building a lasting connection. This training is for you if you freeze up and close up when there's conflicts or bumps in the road because you don't want to rock the boat or say the wrong thing, but you end up feeling like you're not really expressing your wants and desires in the relationship, which can make it feel really one sided, which inevitably can make people grow apart. And this is for you if you want to increase the quality of connections in your life. If you want to build more meaningful, lasting relationships that stand the test of time, that can weather any storm. Trust me, my husband and I have we've gone through it all, but what's kept us together is A, our love, but B, our ability to communicate whatever we're feeling in an empowered way so that we can come together and hear each other and work through any type of conflict that may arise. We've both been through a lot with setting boundaries and growing and evolving as human beings. And what's helped us stay together is our mastered ability of courageous communication. And so I'm so excited to share all this with you. Mike says, yeah, not wanting to rock the boat. It can be scary. We can be afraid of losing a relationship or someone not liking us. And as gay men, we're very sensitive to these things. And I'm going to go into that in a bit. But first, I want to talk about, what you are going to get out of this training, because you deserve to have balanced, fulfilling, and reciprocal connections with the people in your life. And by mastering courageous communication, you're going to improve the quality of satisfaction in all of your relationships. This isn't just about romantic connections. This isn't just about romantic relationships. This is about how you communicate with everyone in your life, from your coworkers to your family members to your kids if you're a parent, to everyone in your life. We are going to have to learn how to set boundaries. We're going to have to learn how to express our needs and wants. And if we want people to stick around, and if we want to stick around, we're going to have to learn how to really set the tone with showing people who we really are. So before we dive into the strategies of how, so who here wants to master courageous communication? Type 1 in the chat if this is something that you feel will benefit you. Type 1 in the chat if you feel like you're in the right place. Type 1 in the chat if you're ready to really explore this amazing skill so that you can have better relationships, better connections, and more happiness, joy, and fulfillment, more purpose, passion, and pleasure in your life. Awesome. Awesome. I'm seeing lots of ones. Great. Well, you guys are in the right place. Stick around. There's a lot that I want to talk about today. I'm going to do my best to cover as much as I can in the next 50 minutes or so. And I hopefully will have some time for questions at the end. So first, I really want to get into why this is so important, why it's necessary and essential to build effective communication skills, to be able to communicate from a place of courage, of power, of strength. Because when you don't, whether you're single or in a relationship, all my single fellas, this one's for you. Type 2 in the chat if you are a single man joining me today. Because if you're single and you're struggling with communication, you're also struggling with making connections. You oftentimes can wonder, I just don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to guys. Type 2 in the chat if you ever feel like you want to make a deep connection with someone, but you just really don't know what to say. And so you get in your head and you question and you kind of doubt yourself. And then what ends up happening is what? You usually don't say much at all. You let the conversations or the matches in, the dating apps just kind of die because you're all up in your head, not knowing what to say because you don't want to say the wrong thing. But then what inevitably happens is a connection is not made and you end up staying single longer than you should. And you also might feel disempowered when you're dating. You're on a date and you're in your head trying to think of the perfect things to say because you want to impress the guy because you really like him, right? But when you're in your head and trying to say the right things, guess what you're not being? You're not being authentic. You're not showing him who you really are. You're showing him who you think he wants you to be. And that's going to be another barrier for building a real bond, a real connection, because people want to see who you really are. And in this training, I want to help you build that courage and that confidence so that you can show more people the amazing one-of-a-kind person that you are, so that you can build more quality connections and relationships. Another big factor that I see with single gay men who struggle with this is hesitating with approaching guys that they're interested in because they don't know what to say. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. They're afraid they're going to be judged or rejected. And so what happens is they oftentimes end up settling for whoever first initiates something with them. And you kind of give your power away by waiting for someone to show interest in you rather than being assertive and putting yourself out there and talking to the guys that you're interested in. How will it feel to be more empowered in dating and know that you have the skills and tools and that you're worthy of love and that you are one of a kind and that you are going to make a great connection when you learn how to show people who you are. Who would like more of that? Type me in the chat. And for those of you who are in a relationship, this applies to you too, because communication skills is not only about attraction and initiation. This is where communication skills becomes imperative, because now the stakes are higher. We're seriously dating someone, or we're in a relationship with someone. This is where communication is essential, because you're sharing life with someone. You're sharing your life. You're cohabitating. Like, it's not like just seeing someone on occasion, especially when you're living together. This is where boundaries and effective communication is so important, not to mention navigating the bumps in the road. Because what happens if you're not actively communicating in a relationship with your partner? What do you think happens when you're not really able to express your wants and needs, and you're kind of going with the motions, you're going with the flow? What do you think happens in a relationship when there's not that high level of honesty and trust and communication? You guys end up growing apart. You're living together, you're roommates, but you don't really know each other because you don't know how to talk to one another, you don't know what to say. And that initial honeymoon phase spark where, it's all sexual and all exciting, that starts to fade if there's not a level of communication that can keep that spark alive. And that's why it's so important for you, even when you're in a relationship, to master these skills so that you're able to express yourself with your partner. Let your partner be your best friend that you can really connect with and continue to grow with. And that's something that Andrew and I have experienced, and something that I want for you. Because if you're not communicating in a healthy way in your relationship, then that spark, like I said, it's going to fade. And if you don't know how to resolve conflicts, if there isn't a strong foundation of mutual connection, then this is a big reason why relationships often fail, because it feels tough and you don't know how to navigate the conflict and you already have grown apart. And this is a big reason why gay men are more likely to be single than any other social group, because gay men struggle with a unique history. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I also just want to help you understand why it's so important, because when we don't effectively communicate, we have something we want to say, but we don't know how to say it. We end up bottling things up, which is going to lead to bigger problems down the road. Because if we bottle things up, if your partner is doing something and it's nagging at you, but you don't really want to hurt his feelings, or you don't really know how to express it, but it keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening. What happens, guys, when you bottle things up? Does it go away? Does the problem disappear when you sweep it under the rug? Does it magically evaporate? No. Type in the chat, what happens when you bottle things up? What eventually happens when you bottle things up, when you don't express yourself, when you don't say things that you really want to say, and it keeps happening again and again? What happens? An explosion happens. That thing that has been nagging at you eventually becomes unbearable. And yes, you blow up. And then, yes, Anthony, you get resentful. Yes, you implode on yourself. And it's incredibly difficult for everyone. But guess what could have happened instead? If you knew how to effectively communicate your wants, needs, and desires, if you could say, honey, I feel a certain way when this thing happens, or when you do this or say that from the get-go, then that bottled up resentment and distance would never have happened. This is why it's so important to learn this skill. Another thing that I see a lot is a tendency to want to say the things that you believe other people want to hear. Because let's face it, we all want to be liked, right? We all want people to like us, especially the people that we really care about. We want to feel wanted and desired by them, and that can cause us to sometimes put on masks, to say things that we really don't mean, so that we think it might make someone like us. But this is going to open up a whole bucket of worms, because what happens when someone falls in love with the mask that you're wearing? What happens when you're tired of wearing it and you want to show them who you really are? And this people-pleasing behavior, it's not serving anybody. It's a contributing factor to one-sided relationships that never end well. And so, not to mention all of the overthinking and the doubting when you don't know what to say, making relationships feel one-sided, and all the emotional consequences associated with not knowing how to confidently express yourself. You'll feel misunderstood. You'll feel disconnected. You'll feel unexpressed. And if you're not expressing your wants, needs, and desires with your partner, then you're eventually going to feel unappreciated, which, as we guys have already explored, can lead to resentments. Guys, this can lead to the loneliness, the sadness, the stress, the anxiety, the frustration, the irritability, and all the things that are associated with not being able to effectively communicate. So I think you guys got the point of why this is so important. If you're hearing me, if this is making sense, type 1 in the chat if you are getting why it's so important to effectively communicate. Let's see some ones in the chat. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if this is making sense, type a 1. Awesome, Joe. Awesome, Julius. Glad you guys are getting it. Kevin, awesome. Yeah, it's important. Like, one of the most important things I would say to make a relationship last is being able to communicate. So I'm excited to dive in. And I get it, guys. You've probably tried a lot of things. It's not like you don't want to communicate. We're not walking around thinking, how can I shoot myself in the foot? How can I cock block myself? How can I sabotage this relationship? We're not actively thinking that. But there's a lot of things that are the biggest reasons why gay men struggle with this a lot more than other social groups. And it's not like you're not trying. It's not like you're unaware of the problem. Many of you have probably tried talk therapy, watching Oprah, asking friends for advice, read self-help books, or forcing yourself to just spit out the thing that you want to say, like ripping off a Band-Aid whenever you can't bear it or hold it any longer. But you see, guys, none of these things actually solve the problem or address the root cause of why gay men struggle so much more with authentic and courageous communication. Because as gay men, we've kind of trained ourselves to not be authentic. Think about it. Growing up, many of us were disciplined for being our authentic selves. I mean, we're trained when we realize that we're different, we kind of teach ourselves that something about us isn't okay and that we need to conform. We need to act a certain way so that we'll be accepted by society, so that people will want to be around us. Type of 1 in the chat if you feel like you have experienced this type of programming, this negative programming that has taught you it's not okay to be yourself, that it's not safe to express who you really are, that something about you is different, and so you need to hide who you are, and you need to be who you think other people want you to be. I know that was the messaging that I interpreted when I was a little kid. Hell, my dad used to call me a sissy when he caught me spending lots of time fixing my hair. Other kids called me a fag for dressing the way that I like to dress. When it came to me being authentic, the lesson I learned was it's not safe. I need to be something else. And I get a little emotional thinking about it, not because it brings me sadness, but my heart breaks for that little boy that I was, that wanted so bad to be himself, but learned from society that something about me was wrong. And I know so many gay men experience this type of rejection. And guys, this is what is the biggest contributing factor to why we put walls up, why we put masks on, why we try to say the thing we think we need to say instead of what we're really feeling, or bottling things up. I was taught that it's safer to suppress my emotions than to express them. And I know that many of you experience the same types of things. Fortunately, the world is changing, but for those of you my age and older, you can especially relate to feeling like something about you was wrong and that you needed to hide. And guys, even after coming out of the closet, like that deep programming is still there. When you feel nervous, you feel worried, you feel anxious, then those old survival patterns from childhood, they're still a part of you. And that's why the things that you may have tried to overcome this probably hasn't worked. And that's why I want to teach you something today that I think is going to help move you in the right direction. So, love your comments, guys. We're in this together. And so, one common misconception is that also expressing your needs or setting boundaries will push people away. But in reality, being open and honest about your feelings, it's going to help you, it's going to help build trust, and it's going to strengthen your connection with other people. And the solution is learning and practicing the art of courageous communication. Because this is going to help you understand your emotions, how to express yourself authentically, as I mentioned before, setting healthy boundaries and resolving conflicts. So type 1 in the chat if you're ready to learn a unique way to express yourself authentically, to not just say the right things, to not memorize a way of being or put on a show so that people will seem to accept you or want to be a part of your life, not to just maintain the status quo in relationships, but to have deep, meaningful connections. Type 1 in the chat if you're ready to learn how you can overcome that deep programming that most of us learned from childhood, so that you can authentically express yourself in a way that feels good, where you don't have to feel guilty, you don't have to be stuck in your head, you don't have to be afraid of saying the wrong thing. That's what we're going to talk about today. Awesome, guys. So we're going to explore communicating wants and desires without attachment, confidently how to meet new people and know what to say, set boundaries without feeling guilty or shame, so that you can express yourself more freely and openly, build more authentic connections, and know how to help them expand and grow. So before we talk about the technical strategies, the things that you've probably, been exposed to at some point, I have some unique ways of explaining it, but what we first have to address is that deep programming that I just mentioned. Because you can have all those strategies in the world, you can have the perfect things to say memorized, but if your survival instincts of fitting in and being accepted start kicking in, then it's not going to land. And those old behaviors, the people pleasing, the putting on the masks, the suppressing, the hiding, the avoiding, the shutting down, the isolating, all of it, it's going to resurface. So what we're first going to talk about, guys, is your mindset. Mindset is going to be at the core. Your inner game is at the core of having effective communication skills. And while I could spend hours, in fact, we have a 4-month program designed to help you master this along with other things. I want to give you a brief rundown of 2 huge mindset tips that I want you to start implementing so that you can break free of this old programming and start being more authentic with the way you express yourself. So the first is to start training yourself to detach from the outcome. This is so much easier said than done because we all want to feel liked, we all want to feel accepted, we all have a subconscious energy of feeling like we're going to die if we're not accepted by the tribe, because our ancestors literally did, and it's part of our DNA. But we get to start actively working on how we detach ourselves from the outcome, because attachments fuel the worried, anxious thoughts and emotions that cause you to filter yourself, bottle things up, or say what you think other people want to hear instead of what you really want, because you're afraid. Type me in the chat if you're afraid. If you really expressed yourself authentically, then someone might not like you, that they might judge you, that they might reject you. Type me in the chat if you've ever felt like, if I really said the thing I want to say, I'm afraid this person might not want to be in my life anymore, so I should just not say it. I'll just hide it. I'll just bury it down. So not only are we not expressing ourselves authentically because we're afraid of rejection or judgment, we're telling ourselves that we're not worthy of expressing ourselves fully. that we're not good enough and what we want doesn't matter as much as being accepted by others, which is going to feed that energy of people pleasing, of self-sacrificing, of neglecting ourselves. And guys, this ends up being a self-defeating prophecy because those one-sided relationships, they never last. They're not sustainable. And when we neglect to show people who we really are, they can feel that distance. And it inevitably grows and grows and grows over time. And it leads to inauthentic connections. It leads to you feeling alone and isolated. So we've got to start training ourselves to be okay and not have expectations, to not be attached to the outcomes, so that we can trust in, which is the second tip, that we're going to be okay if someone doesn't like what we have to say. Again, I get that we want people to like us, and when someone doesn't, it can suck a little bit. I was talking to one of my clients just on Tuesday in a one-on-one session about how important it is for him to know, even if someone does reject him when he shows him who he really is, that at the deepest level, while it stings a little bit, we are gonna be okay. We've got to stop feeling like rejection is life or death. We've got to stop and think and remind ourselves, sure, I want this person to like me, but we've got to eliminate the need for them to like us, because that's what's going to fuel the mindset of suppression of our thoughts and desires. And it's going to be so important for you to just remind yourself, I know I'm going to be okay. No matter what happens when I say this to this person, I know I'm going to be okay. I want you guys to start practicing it. In fact, type it in the chat. I know I'm going to be okay. Because expressing myself is more important than being accepted for who I'm pretending to be. Type, I know I'm going to be okay right now. You need to remind yourself. This is something I want you to remind yourself often. Take a deep breath and remind yourself, I'm gonna be okay. And that's gonna help you detach yourself from the outcomes so that you can be more free and authentic. And while it might suck a little bit if people don't pick up what you're putting down, you are gonna be okay. And guess what happens when you stand on your own 2 feet fully and authentically, and instead of shining a dim light, instead of being a one-size-fits-all, guys, when you show people who you are and people don't gravitate to you, and this is also going to be the case when you set boundaries and people don't honor them, like, do you want people in your life just because you're bending over backwards for them? Or do you want people in your life that honor your boundaries and honor who you are and want to be a part of your world for all that you are? Because when people distance themselves from you, when you take a stand for yourself, it energetically creates more space for people who will be picking up exactly what you're putting down. And it can feel scary, and I get it. We all have that longing for acceptance, that longing to fit in, that child in us that felt different, wants to be accepted. I understand it. But the more that we can trust in the abundance of the universe, I know this sounds a little woo-woo, but the more that we can trust that when we show people who we are, and we set the healthy boundaries, it's going to make room for people who will honor and respect that we can have that really beautiful connection with. So those are the mindset tips that I want you to take away. And now I want to talk about some more practical, logistical things to help you really master the art of courageous communication. So if you guys are still with me, type a 2 in the chat for part 2 of this incredible training, which is going to help you understand exactly what you can start doing, how you can start thinking differently, and how you can really understand what to say. Type a 2 in the chat if you're ready to really start practicing and understanding how to know what to say when you get all up in your head, how to confidently express your wants, needs, and desires when it feels a little scary, how to set healthy boundaries when you're terrified that you're going to look like an asshole, or that you're going to feel guilty, or that people won't honor your boundaries and they won't want to be your friend anymore if you put your foot down. Type 2 in the chat if you're ready to really be able to learn how to navigate conflicts when you're in a relationship and you're disagreeing, because guess what? Not everybody thinks the same way. Well, that's what we're about to do. I love seeing all the twos. Awesome, guys. So, now that we've talked about mindset, which is essential, you've got to know you're going to be okay, and you've got to detach yourself from the outcome. Those are so important for any of these other processes to work. You've got to work on those things. You've got to let them sink in. You've got to remind yourself consistently, I know no matter what happens when I set this boundary, I know whatever happens when I express myself authentically, I'm going to be okay. So here we go, guys. Roll up our sleeves. I'm going to take a sip. This is going to be good. I'm really excited. I love communication. It's so important, and I have, been so excited about teaching this to you. So, rule number 1 for courageous communication. And this is for those of you when you just feel like you don't know what to say, when you're just in your head and you're not sure and you're kind of worried and you just want to make a good impression, right? You just like we all want to have connections in our lives. We all want to be part of communities. We all want friends. We all want romance in our life. But sometimes we're kind of little constipated and congested about how to get there, about how to create it. And so we instinctively think, what do I need to say so somebody likes me? And so this is the wrong approach. So guys, rule number 1 for courageous communication is to stop that shit. Rule number 1 is to stop trying to figure out the right thing to say. I was working with one of my clients yesterday. He's on the call. I'm not going to call you out. Don't worry. He was wanting me to help him decide exactly what to say to a guy so that he would have the best result, which makes sense. It's an understandable question. But figuring out the right thing to say to someone is the wrong approach. Because if we're just trying to come up with magical words so someone likes us, there's a disconnect in authenticity, and it's not going to land. So instead of trying to figure out the right thing to say, what you get to think about instead is, what do you want to say? What do you want to communicate to this person? What do you want to know about them? What are the things that you're really feeling? And this is where we might have some programming that's taught us to not feel connected to that part of us because we're just going through the motions. We're wearing masks. We're doing the things. We're acting like we did when we were kids. Guys, when I was a kid, I didn't know who the fuck I was because I was so busy trying to fit in. I was so busy trying to avoid getting picked on or being bullied. And so I was quiet and reserved, and I was always in my head, and I was always trying to figure out the right things to say. And guess what? I didn't feel like I had a lot of deep and meaningful connections because of that. And if you're trying to figure out the right thing to say to people, then you're not building the deep quality of connections that you could be making. So this is where you get to think about what you're interested in. What brings you joy is a really important part of getting to know someone. Because we want relationships to feel like a get to, right? And so when you're tuned into what brings you joy, what you're excited about, those are the kind of things that you get to talk about. And you get to ask them, what brings them joy? What are they excited about? What are the uplifting things in their life that they're navigating? But it doesn't always have to be upbeat and optimistic. When we're getting to know someone for the first time, I think this is a great way to spark a mutual interest where people want to be together because they feel uplifted and they feel happy and they feel connected, but don't fake it. If you're not feeling joy in your life, then that's something really important for you to work on before you start trying to connect with other people. I'm not telling you to isolate yourself, but if you're looking to other people to bring you joy because you feel like you have a lack of joy and happiness in your life, then that's also going to create one-sided relationships. And that's what's feeding this energy of feeling like you need to say the right thing so that they'll like you so they can make you happy. It's like that whole Jerry Maguire bullshit. You complete me. This is not the right way to think. So instead of trying to figure out the right thing to say, what are you going to think about instead? What do I want to say? What am I feeling in this moment? And that really leads to number 2. Rule number 2, when in doubt, what are you curious about? Are you genuinely interested in this person? Or is this just someone that you find attractive that you're trying to force something with? This is where you get to focus more on not if they like you, but if you're enjoying spending time with them. That's your job on any date. It's not to figure out what you need to say so they like you, not wondering if they're into you, but shifting the focus on if you're into them, if you're enjoying the conversation, if you're enjoying the connection, if it feels uplifting and inspiring to you. So when in doubt, what are you curious about? So while being respectful of boundaries, of course, we don't want to ask people super invasive questions on the very first date. But what do you want to know about them? What are you curious about? Curiosity is a very high vibrational energy. And when you can lean into that curiosity without judgment, you're gonna really be able to build really cool connections with other people. You just get to ask people, what are you excited about? What do you most look forward to doing on the weekends? What brings you the most joy in your life? What makes you feel happy? What do you like doing? What are some of your hobbies and interests? What are you passionate about? What do you like about your job? Where's a fun place that you like to travel? What do you like to do? Like, coming from a genuine curiosity, like, don't memorize these questions just to have questions to ask, but really think about, like, what do you want to know about this person? And people love talking about themselves. It's going to open up a conversation, and it's going to help you create that spark, create that chemistry. I see one of my clients that I've been working with about how to have more connection in his conversations on the dating apps. And if you're just talking about like what you're literally doing and what they're literally doing, it's like, I'm doing laundry today, or I'm at work, or I'm going to the grocery store. Like, instead of reporting what you're up to, we want to talk about emotion. We want to feel that chemistry and that connection. And instead of reporting what you're doing, this is where you get to start talking about what you're excited about and ask them what excites them. Is this making sense? Type a 1 in the chat if you're getting what I'm putting down. If this is making sense to you, type a 1 in the chat. How to steer the conversations. When you don't know what to say, type a 1 in the chat if you feel like you've got a better idea of some of the things that you can say. What not to do. Stop trying to figure out the right thing to say. And start tuning into what you're curious about, what you're interested in, what you want to say. Awesome, guys. Awesome. You're getting it. I'm so glad. This is important. And the same thing goes in relationships. But this is especially important when you're getting to know someone for the first time. Stop trying to think of the right thing to say and what you want to say instead. And let curiosity be your guide. When you're coming from an energy of loving kindness, gentlemen, you can't say the wrong thing. So if you're genuinely curious about something, you get to explore it and you get to confidently ask. And this goes for any type of connection. All right. So next we're going to talk about setting boundaries and navigating conflicts. Type a 2 in the chat if this is something that you are wanting to explore. Type a 2 if you're ready to learn how to set boundaries, navigate conflicts without feeling guilty, without feeling like an asshole, without feeling selfish, without worrying about if someone's going to honor your boundaries and stick around. Yeah, type a 2 in the chat if you're ready to learn how to navigate conflicts when things get bumpy, when you disagree about something or you want different things. Type a 2 in the chat if you're ready to learn how to navigate these things. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys. So, rule number 3. What's best for you is best for everyone. I'm going to say that again so it really sinks in. What's best for you is best for everyone. The most loving choice for you is the most loving choice for the rest of the world. Because we've already explored, let's unpack this a bit. We've already explored what happens when we don't set boundaries. When we bottle things up and we don't say what we're really feeling. When we bend over backwards so someone likes us, or when we do people lots of favors and things just because we're afraid they won't want to be our friend if we don't. What happens? We create one-sided relationships. We teach these people how to treat us. We teach them to expect us to bend over backwards for them. We teach them to expect us to neglect ourselves and sacrifice ourselves because as far as they know, that's just what we love doing. When in reality, we just want to be a part of a relationship. We just want to feel love. But when we don't set boundaries, who are we not showing love to? When we don't tell people how we're really feeling, when we dishonor ourselves, who are we not showing love to? Ourselves. And we're also setting up the relationship to fail. Because what happens when we bend over backwards for someone, or we sacrifice ourselves for someone? What happens exactly, Mike? We're not showing love to ourselves. And what ends up happening when the relationship is based on what we can do for that person? It just escalates. They become dependent on us and come to expect this kindness. They come to demand this generosity. And we keep giving and giving and giving because we want them to like us. And it feels good. It's coming from a loving place because we're compassionate and we're giving and we're kind and we're generous. But what ends up happening is every time we sacrifice ourselves for another person, we lose a little bit of ourselves. We're telling ourselves, I'm not as important as this other person. And what happens when we don't feel appreciated or valued for our acts of kindness, for our self-sacrifice? We end up paying the highest price at the end because we end up feeling resentful. We end up feeling overwhelmed. We end up feeling stressed out because we've taken on so much. And the relationship isn't sustainable. So this is where you get to start setting boundaries from the get-go. And for those of you who really struggle with this, there's going to be some challenging moments ahead because you've trained the people in your life to expect you to be this way. Whether it's your coworkers who you pick up the slack for, or someone that you're in a relationship with that you're always extra giving and kind and generous to, but neglect yourself a little bit. If you feel like you can't set boundaries with family members, they're going to continue expecting you to be this way. And so when you make a stand and you decide, I'm no longer tolerating this type of relationship, again, this doesn't make anybody good or bad. It's just energy, and it's relationships. But this is where you get to take responsibility for changing them. This is where it is hard with family, Josh. It can be. But this is where you get to start setting boundaries, and I'm going to teach you how in a moment. But first, I just want you to get why it's so important. And it's so that you know how to create balance. And this is where you get to simply say, thank you for asking. I'm not available. I can't do this thing anymore. You don't owe anybody an explanation. And again, the most loving choice for you is the most loving choice for the rest of the world. When you can honor yourself and put boundaries up confidently and courageously, this isn't selfish. Self-love is not selfish. Because as we established, when you're not setting boundaries, you're not giving yourself love. You're making yourself less than. You're making yourself a doormat in relationships when you're not asserting your needs and your wants and your desires. But you actually create space for people to respect you and love you and honor you more when you tell people what you need. Because people can't read your mind. And this is where you get to honor yourself. And you get to start practicing setting healthy boundaries. You get to start asserting what you need in the relationship for it to feel good to you. And if people can't rise to the occasion and meet you at that elevated space, it doesn't make anybody good or bad. It just means that it's not a good fit. It means that they want you to sink back down where they get the upper hand and they get to enjoy how generous and giving you are. But do you want to be in a relationship with someone where you only feel that the value you have in that relationship is what you can do for them? This is where you get to go back to the inner game work, guys, and you get to start valuing yourself enough and loving yourself enough to say no. No is not a bad word. No sometimes is the most loving thing that you can say to someone. Mike is such a great example. I'm just so proud of you for the boundaries that you've set in creating a new elevated way of being in your world. He had to set some uncomfortable boundaries with some people in his life. And before he was setting those boundaries, he was living in a way that didn't feel good to him. And I'm so proud of you, Mike, for making those changes and for stepping into a new way of being. And you're creating space for your family to meet you there, or you're creating space for new people to come into your world that will love you and value you for exactly who you are, and that will honor your boundaries, that you can have that balanced connection with. Now I want to talk a little bit about conflict resolution. So some big, important things to think about here. We want to shift the energy. When we're in a conflict, we're heated and we're frustrated and it feels like we're not on the same page and somebody's saying one thing, somebody's saying another, but it just doesn't really go anywhere. This is because both parties are probably coming from a place of blaming the other. And what happens when you feel blamed for something? What do? I know what happens when I typically feel blamed. Yeah. Yelling, arguing, not listening. When people feel blamed for something, they tend to instinctively shut down and put up a wall, a defensive wall. And then with that wall up, or they lash back, absolutely, Anthony. They get defensive or offensive, but nothing really gets accomplished. And when someone has a wall up, they can't really hear you. And so this is going to be a really big challenge in relationships if you don't know how to navigate conflicts. So this is where you get to shift from blaming and pointing fingers that goes nowhere to calmly owning how you feel. This is where you get to own your feelings. So I'm going to teach you rule number 4, but a prerequisite to number 4 is first, when you feel heated, take a deep breath. If you are in a conflict, if you are in a situation that normally makes you want to fight, flight, or flee, if it triggers your stress response, you're not able to think clearly. And the best way to restore yourself to sanity is to take a deep breath. If you can't think clearly, take a moment before you speak. And this is where you get to do rule number 4, which is own your feelings using I statements. You never, ever, 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 ever want to say, you make me feel, or you did this, or you did that, and that's why I'm pissed, because you never tell the truth, and you lie, and you always do this, and you always do that. Then they're defensive, and they're saying the same things back to you. Well, you did this, and you did that, and you're arguing over quote-unquote finger quote facts. different perspectives, and it just leads to the headbutting. Jerome, I don't know. It can lead to fist fighting. It can, but it doesn't go anywhere, right? So this is where you get to shift the script. You take a deep breath and you calm yourself down. You don't speak until you feel a little bit of calmness, because if your adrenaline's pumping, you're in fight or flight mode or flee mode, you're not able to think clearly. But I want to teach you how to stop shutting down and avoiding. Yeah, blaming is a circular argument. It leads nowhere. Exactly, Anthony. So this is where you get to own your feelings using I statements. Who's heard of I statements? Type I in the chat if you're familiar, because this is a ninja skill that's going to help you stay neutral, express yourself authentically, and let yourself be 10 times more likely to feel heard. I statements is, instead of saying, you make me feel bad, it's, I feel bad. Because when this happens, I create a story in my mind that you don't appreciate me. I feel bad. I feel sad. I feel frustrated and resentful. Because when this happens, I create a story that you don't value and you don't appreciate me. I create a story. Are you guys hearing me? Do you hear the difference in that between you make me feel angry because you're an asshole and you fucking don't listen to me? I know I added some flavor to that for emphasis, but do you guys see the difference? If I tell you that you don't love me and you don't treat me good enough, they're going to get defensive. And they're going to think of all the reasons why you're wrong. And they're going to argue with you. I'm not going to say people can't argue with I statements, but I'm not blaming anybody for anything when I say, I feel unloved and I feel unappreciated. Because when this thing happens, when I see you do X, Y, and Z, I just create this story that you're not really valuing me as much as I would like. I create this story that I'm not as important to you. And I feel sad about that. Like, it takes away the heightened conflict, and it allows you to express what you're feeling. When I say I feel sad because when this thing happens, I create a story in my mind that you want to leave me and that you're not really in it with me. Like, I'm talking about my feelings and my story. Like, I'm aware that this isn't a fact. I'm telling him that this is what the situation makes me think and feel. Type a 1 in the chat if this is making sense, because this is probably the biggest game-changing thing when it came to learning how to navigate conflict in my world. There's a lot more to all of this, but this foundational tool, I feel this way because I'm creating a story that, I'm not saying you don't love me, I'm saying I'm creating a story in my mind that makes me feel like you don't love me as much anymore. How does that land instead of saying you don't love me? You don't love me, or I'm creating a story that you don't love me as much as you did. Like, one is blaming someone and accusing them. The other one's owning my side of the street. And then that person gets to share how they feel, and we get to hear each other. But we've got to trust in ourselves, and we've got to learn how to tune into our feelings and emotions first. That is paramount. Yes, there's no accusation. I hear you, Anthony. There's more to it. But this is the foundational skill. We can all be divas sometimes, Julius. I hear you. So it's just being able to navigate these things. So guys, in summary, the mindset tips, detaching yourself from the outcome, knowing you're going to be okay. Rule number 1, stop trying to figure out the right thing to say. Rule number 2, when in doubt, what are you curious about? Rule number 3, what's best for you is best for everyone. Trusting in yourself. Setting boundaries is a skill. It's going to feel awkward as hell at first if you're not used to it. But you get to practice. And you get to remind yourself that you're going to be okay if you set those boundaries. And you get to be unattached to how they're going to react. Because people, we can't predict it. Rule number 4, own your feelings using I statements. If this was helpful for you guys, yes. Type yes in the chat if this was helpful for you. If this resonates with you, type yes in the chat. Because I have more that I would really love to share. If this resonates with you, I have something really special I would like to share, in fact. I'd like to invite you to an exclusive opportunity that's designed to take all the things that we talked about today to the next level. Awesome. Love seeing these yeses. That's designed to help you not only master your communication skills, but also master your inner game, which is a core component of being able to effectively communicate. Because as I said before, we can have all the words, we can know the right things to say, but if our energy's off, we're going to be attached to outcomes. We're going to be worried what people think. And it's so easy to resort back to that old past programming. There's no 1-hour training in the world that can help get rid of all of this. But I feel so inspired. I want to share with you a special opportunity to help take things to the next level and really take that programming that I talked about earlier and really know how to address it in a way that is unique and specific to the challenges that we as gay men face. And it's called the Thriving Gay Man Mastermind. It's designed to empower gay men to live authentic, purpose-driven lives filled with passion, pleasure, and deeply satisfying relationships. In this comprehensive 4-month experience, you'll master your inner game. You'll take bold actions in integrity with your goals and desires, and you'll build next-level connections. Not only will you transform your communication skills, but also elevate other aspects of your life, leading to deeper, more fulfilling relationships, increased confidence, and overall well-being. Type a 1 in the chat if you would like more of that. Type a 1 in the chat if you would like to not only have these helpful tips and strategies, but know how to transform your communication skills. Type a 1 in the chat if you desire to elevate all aspects of your life so that you can have more purpose-driven lives, more peace, more passion, more pleasure. Type a 1 in the chat if you desire more fulfilling relationships, increased confidence, and overall well-being. Awesome, guys. Well, the first thing that we do in the Thriving Gay Mastermind, I can't wait to share this. I'm so excited to reveal this amazing opportunity because the first thing that we really focus on is what we touched on a bit in this training, which is thoroughly mastering your inner game, where we're going to get radically honest about where you are, what's not working, and what's working in your health, wealth, relationships, and career, so that you can stop wondering what you need to do differently and know exactly what you get to focus on and change. Who feels like they want more in life? Type a 2 in the chat if you feel like you want more in life, but you just don't know how to achieve it. You just don't know what to do. Type a 2 in the chat if you feel like there's just something missing. Like, you're not miserable or depressed, but you just know that you want more. But you don't quite know how to get there. Type 2 in the chat if it just feels like sometimes, some days you feel like you're existing more than you're really fully living. Type a 2 in the chat. Well, this first part of mastering your inner game, where we really dive deep to create a baseline of where you're at, what's working and what's not working, is exactly what we'll dive into so that we know exactly what things need to be addressed for you to elevate to that next level of being, that next level of living, that next level of thriving. So we can get really clear about who you are and who you want to be as part of the next part, where you're going to create your ultimate identity, which creates a new vision for yourself. Once we're clear on what's working and what's not working, we're going to uncover your core values and what drives you so that you can identify what brings you joy in life and how you can create more of it, how you can bring it to the forefront of your life, and learn simple daily practices to consistently address that program that we talked about, to help you consistently recalibrate, reprogram, and rewire your brain to neutralize the fears and doubts and insecurities so that you really can step into a new elevated way of being, so that you can build unshakable confidence, self-love, and trust in yourself, and make it stick. Type a 1 in the chat if you would like more of that. Type a 1 in the chat if you would love to have that level of confidence and satisfaction and joy and know how to create it consistently. I know for me, I had such a long period of ups and downs, but with these 5 rituals, you'll have daily actions to know exactly what to do to combat that programming that we learned as a child about suppressing ourselves, about not feeling good enough. Because those things don't go away after we come out of the closet. They stick with us. And until we learn how to face it in a way that's unique to gay men, they linger and they stay in our subconscious. And they bite us in the ass at the most unopportune times. That's what creates the self-sabotaging behaviors that are blocking you from that next level of thriving. Well, with these consistent daily actions that I'm so excited to teach you, you're going to know how to remedy that and how to put a pin in it for once and for all. The next phase of the Thriving Gay Man Mastermind is focusing on taking action and integrity. Now that you've done the inner game work and you know exactly what to do to maintain a higher level of thinking and seeing yourself in the world, we're going to start, this is where the rubber meets the road. And you're going to start consistently taking actions that's in alignment with your highest goals and values. You'll be courageously removing the mental, physical, emotional, and even human clutter that's been draining you. Because who feels like they never have enough time? Type 2 in the chat if you feel like you just don't have enough time or energy to really spend doing the things that you want. You feel weighed down, you feel deflated, you feel depleted sometimes. Type a 2 in the chat if you just feel like there's just so much in the way of you really creating the life that you want. You just feel like there's just this fog blocking you from what you most desire in this world. Yeah. Well, that's where we declutter. We, step by step, remove the mental, emotional, physical, and human clutter that's been draining you so that you have more time and spaciousness to enjoy and live your life more fully and freely. I'm going to teach you things like the Magnetic Man Toolkit and the Make Shit Happen protocol to help you meet your physical and emotional needs so that you know how to not need other people, where then instead other people get to be a part of your life, but you don't need them to feel better about who you are because you're able to meet your own physical and emotional needs. And replacing unhealthy band-aids with healthy coping mechanisms, and have a foolproof system to crush any goal with consistency and accountability. So once you have that way of being down, we're going to dive into relationships reimagined, where we're going to master what we talked about today, courageous communication, but in a much more thorough and comprehensive way, much more than what I can just squeeze into 50 minutes, but help you go even deeper into what we talked about so that all of these things feel like second nature, to where everywhere you go, you recognize when you're in your head. You recognize the minute you start to put on that mask to conform or people please or bend over backwards, and you know exactly what to do differently because it's been reprogrammed in your mind. Where you're able to explore sex, love, and liberation, improving your dating strategies, learning how to create deeper connections, and overcoming the fear of rejection. Who would like an elevated level of intimacy in your life? Type a 1 in the chat if that's something that you desire. Type a 1 in the chat if you would love to be able to confidently express your sexual desires, your romantic needs, without feeling fear of being judged or rejected, but giving yourself spaciousness to explore these things and to feel really good about it. This is something that's helped Andrew and I take our sex life and our intimacy to whole new heights. We've explored all sorts of things together, and some of them, once we explored it, we decided, hey, let's go back to the way things were. But we had that level of communication and trust to really figure out what we most desire. And to have that level of intimacy and connection is something that we all can have. We all can experience. We are sexual beings, and we deserve to explore and have our sexual fantasies met. And from that liberated space, you're going to learn how to create the most intimate, deep connections that you could imagine, and overcoming fear of rejection along the way. We're going to explore how you can have reimagined relationships where you're assembling your dream team, your inner circle. Who would like to feel like you've got that group of people, like your board of directors for your life, where you have certain people that just help support you in different ways, help uplift you, help inspire you, that you know are part of your group, your clique. I know I've worked with a lot of gay men who feel like they've been envious of other gay circles who seem to have all of it together. Yeah, type yes in the chat if you want that for yourself. If you want that community, if you want that dream team that you can count on, that you know is there for you, and that you're also there for them. Where you can learn how to sustain love and connection while giving back to others. Well, guys, this is the Thriving Gay Mastermind. And if this is something that you would like to explore, we are opening the doors, and there are currently 17 spots left. This is going to be the most comprehensive, most powerful, most mind-blowing experience that we've ever created at Gay Man Thriving. And I'm so excited to share this with you. If you'd like to learn more, type Thriving in the chat or send me a private message. I'd be happy to offer a one-on-one call to really explore if this is the best fit for you. By the end of this process, by the end of the Thriving Gay Mastermind, you'll have a newfound sense of confidence and purpose. You'll have the tools needed to create and maintain balanced, healthy relationships. You'll have a life filled with passion and pleasure. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life and join a supportive community of gay men who are all committed to thriving. If you desire to explore if the Thriving Gay Man Mastermind is for you, if you want to take your communication skills to the next level and make them a permanent way of being, if you desire to have more purpose, passion, and pleasure in your life, if you want to master your inner game and really abolish that old programming that's been holding you back, that creeps up and bites you in the ass in the most inopportune moments, if you desire to experience a new level of being, a new level of thriving, I'd love to invite you to explore this opportunity with me. Andrew and I are thrilled to have this new experience, and I would love to explore if it's a good fit. Andrew says, I'm so excited about this mastermind. We've been going through some of it ourselves to test it out, and it is fire. So type Thriving in the chat if this is something you're curious about exploring. This is for you if you're a gay man and you want more in life. If you desire to experience a new, more elevated way of thinking, feeling, and being. If you want to wake up every morning feeling more purpose, feeling excited to jump out of bed because you know there's so much to look forward to. If you want to feel deeply connected with exciting and uplifting people in your life, if you want that inner circle with a group of people that constantly inspire and uplift you, if you want to know how to create a new level of intimacy in your life that bypasses anything you've experienced before, Type thriving in the chat or send me a private message. I'm so excited to explore this with you. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. I want to honor all of you for wanting to make these big shifts and to expand to a new level of being and communicating. I hope this was a helpful training for you. And for those of you who want to take things to the next level, for those of you who want to explore how to really make what we talked about today a solid way of being, then type thriving in the chat or send me a private message or send Andrew a private message. We'd love to explore this new opportunity with you. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Remember, you get to decide how you show up in each and every moment. And you are worthy of expressing yourself openly and freely because you matter. Your value is not what you can do for other people or how many people like you for who you're pretending to be. Your value is who you are as a human being. And you are inherently valuable because you are one of a kind. So stop trying to dim your light so that you can fit in. Don't let those childhood core wounds make you feel like you have to suppress or hide or deny who you are. Not everybody is going to pick up what you're putting down, but that's okay. Because the more that you show people who you are, the more people who love and value and appreciate you for exactly who you are will gravitate into your life. You deserve to have a fulfilling, connected, thriving existence. And I hope this training today was helpful for you. Much love for you all. Have a beautiful day. I look forward to seeing you all real soon. Bye for now.